Feisty, bitter, desperate, and fiercely contested, the race for the American presidency has seen combatants plumb the heights and depths of political life. For President Herbert Hoover, the 1932 campaign came at a time when the Great Depression had battered his presidency. The Republican from California was also hampered by the public's repudiation of the federal ban on alcohol, known as Prohibition. Democratic nominee Franklin D. Roosevelt, on the other hand, combined charisma and idealism. He pledged to create a New Deal that would lift the United States out of economic insecurity. His campaign song, "Happy Days Are Here Again," became the most popular in American political history. Together with his popular wife, Eleanor, FDR toured the nation and convinced the American people to elect him as president. His public appearances were carefully stage-managed to hide the fact that he could not walk without assistance due to an illness contracted 10 years earlier. Roosevelt defeated Hoover by nearly 18%, the biggest margin ever recorded against a sitting president. He went on to serve 12 years in the top job and was instrumental in steering his country through the dark days of World War II. FDR died in office in 1945 and is considered to be the greatest president of the 20th century. Another hard-fought campaign took place in 1952 amid the flourishing paranoia of Cold War America. Illinois Governor Adlai Stevenson won the Democratic nomination. War hero General Dwight D. Eisenhower represented the Republicans. Incumbent President Harry Truman was struggling with a foreign policy quagmire in Korea, allegations of corruption within his administration, and an arms race with the Soviet Union.
I for president, I for president, I for president, I for president, you like I.
The time was ripe for a former Supreme Commander of NATO to enter the fray, even though Eisenhower had never served in political office before.
We don't want John or Dean or Harriet. We'll take I to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country.
It was an uphill battle, as the Democrats had been in office for 20 years. But Eisenhower's war record and strength of character reassured an American people looking for stability and security. Eisenhower selected Senator Richard Nixon as his running mate and promised to go to Korea himself to personally negotiate an end to the war. He also pledged to run a corruption-free administration and to maintain a hard line against communism at home and abroad. Democratic candidate Adlai Stevenson was a moderate who came from a distinguished political family. His intellect and liberal policies were rejected by voters, who gave Eisenhower the presidency by more than 55% of the popular vote and 39 of 48 states. The 1979 presidential election took place also in tumultuous times. President Jimmy Carter was up against California Governor Ronald Reagan, a former Hollywood star. Carter had come to office as a fresh alternative to the sleaziness of Nixon's White House. He saw out a strong challenge from Ted Kennedy, brother of JFK, and was confident of beating the contender from California. But the country was experiencing an economic downturn, and by the end of his first term, Carter's Southern charm was wearing thin. Reagan was quick to exploit the electorate's disenchantment, which increased when militant Iranians kidnapped 66 Americans. In 1978, the Shah of Iran, an American ally, had been toppled from power and fled to Egypt. Iranians were furious when he was allowed to enter the United States for medical treatment. The hostages were taken from the American embassy in Tehran in retaliation. In a final effort to resolve the hostage crisis before the election, the president authorized a rescue mission codenamed Desert One. But the high-risk operation ended in disaster with the loss of 8 soldiers and the smoldering wrecks of 3 military helicopters.
It was my decision to attempt the rescue operation. It was my decision to cancel it when problems developed in the placement of our rescue team for a future rescue operation. The responsibility is fully my own.
I was there in Washington at the time of the State of the Union address. Now, I don't know why I should think of this, but I do. That a man who tells you he enjoys a cold shower every morning will lie about other things.
Reagan won the election, and the hostages were released the following year.